Australia is bigger than most people realize when they book the ticket. Not big like there's a lot to do. Big like one side of the country to the other is the same distance as Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. Most visitors fly in, see Sydney, maybe do a day trip to the reef, and think they've done it. They've barely touched the surface. Welcome to Optimized Travel Destinations. My name is Teresa, and I am part of the OptimizedTravel.com team. We help travelers plan amazing trips through our concierge service, and our team has worked together to list the absolute best places Australia has to offer. These are the 15 best places to visit in Australia, covering iconic landmarks, wild coastlines, and places most visitors never make it to. Counting down from 15 to 1. Stay for number 1, the most extraordinary natural structure on Earth. We start our countdown with Cape York Peninsula. Cape York is the very top of Australia, the northernmost point of the continent, pointing up into the Torres Strait between Australia and Papua New Guinea. There's no sealed road to the tip. To get there, you drive one of the most challenging four-wheel drive tracks in the country. River crossings, corrugated dirt roads, sections that are completely impassable in the wet season. Most people allow 2 weeks return from Cairns. At the end of it, you stand at the very tip of the continent and look north across the water. There's a sign. There's usually someone there with a photo of themselves next to it, looking extremely satisfied. The journey really is the point. You pass through rainforest, savanna, rivers full of barramundi, and wetlands where jaguars stalk through the shallows. Everyone who's been there describes it the same way: raw. Honestly, if you're the type of traveler who likes to be able to say you've stood somewhere most people will never bother reaching, Cape York is it. That feeling when you finally get to the sign at the tip is something else. One important thing to know: this is strictly a dry season destination. June to October is when you come. The wet season from November to May closes most of the tracks completely. Let's head to the Blue Mountains. "90 minutes west of Sydney by train. And people make the mistake of treating it as a day trip. It's not a day trip. It's a destination. The haze that gives the mountains their name is real. It comes from eucalyptus oil evaporating from millions of trees. On the right morning, it turns the entire valley a genuine, actual blue. You stand at Echo Point looking out over 1,000 meters of sandstone escarpments and rainforest gullies. And it doesn't look like it should be an hour and a half from a city of 5 million people. The Three Sisters are the image everyone knows. 3 sandstone spires standing at the edge of the valley. The scenic railway down into the Jameson Valley is one of the steepest passenger railways in the world. The Jenolan caves below the range are extraordinary. Underground limestone caverns with formations that took millions of years to build. Stay the night in Katoomba. The town has a slightly faded Art Deco elegance and the best cafes you'll find this side of Sydney. I recommend Echo Point at sunrise. Before the day tours roll in, the valley fills with mist and light comes over the escarpment, and you have that view almost entirely to yourself. It's a completely different experience to showing up mid-afternoon. Next up, we're heading to the Barossa Valley. 60 kilometers north of Adelaide, and one of the most recognizable wine names on Earth. The Barossa produces around 20% of all Australian wine, and punches well above that on the best tables internationally. The Shiraz here is particularly famous. Some of the old vines are 150 years old and still producing. But it's more than cellar doors. Stone Lutheran churches, heritage villages, and a Saturday farmers market where the sourdough and the metwurst sell out before most people have finished parking. There's a warmth to this valley that proper wine regions tend to have. The food has grown to match the wine, and a 2-hour lunch has a habit of becoming a 5-hour afternoon. Seppeltsfield does a tasting of port wine from the year you were born. Whatever year that is, they have barrels going back over a century. It's one of those experiences you don't forget. My favorite thing about the Barossa is how unhurried the whole place feels. Nobody rushes you through a tasting. A long lunch bleeds into an afternoon, and somehow that feels completely right. The Barossa works year-round, but if you can time it for harvest between February and April, the valley is at its most alive. Wineries running, grapes being picked, and a general sense that everyone's exactly where they're supposed to be. And continuing our countdown, we arrive at Byron Bay, the easternmost point of mainland Australia, on the far north coast of New South Wales. The lighthouse at Cape Byron sits above one of the most photographed headlands in the country, with views north and south along a coastline that just keeps going. Byron has a reputation that precedes it, and it's earned. The surf is world-class, the markets are genuine, and the food scene has grown well beyond what you'd expect from a town this size. The town has changed a lot. It's more expensive and more famous than it used to be. But walk to the lighthouse at dawn before anyone else is up. Watch the sun come over the Pacific. Spot a dolphin or a whale if the season's right. It still delivers. The hinterland is the underrated part. Bangalow is a proper village with a main street full of good cafes and not much else. Nimbin is 30 minutes inland, doing its own thing since the 1970s, with no interest in changing. Both worth the detour. I think most people spend too long in the town and not enough time in the hinterland. Even a half-day drive through Bangalow and up into the hills changes what Byron Bay means to you. October to April is the sweet spot for warm water, but if you're there between September and November, keep an eye offshore. Humpback whales might migrate right past the Cape. Moving on, we're heading to Margaret River, 3 hours south of Perth. And what makes Margaret River unusual is how much it packs into one region. Wine, surf, caves, and forest, all within 100 kilometers of each other. The surf break here is one of the best in the Southern Hemisphere. Serious waves, serious surfers, and a coastline that stretches for miles with almost no one on it outside of competition season. The cave system below the region is massive. Jewel Cave, Lake Cave, Mammoth Cave, all open to the public. Lake Cave has a suspended cable of calcite hanging above an underground lake. It looks like a film set, but it isn't. The wineries produce some of the best Cabernet and Chardonnay in Australia. Less internationally famous than the Barossa, which means the cellar doors are quieter, the tastings longer, and the food is excellent. And then there's the Kari Forest. Straight red trunks going 50, 60, 70 meters straight up. Driving through it feels like driving through a cathedral. I think what surprises people most about Margaret River is the sheer variety of it. You go expecting wine, and the wine is excellent. But then you also get world-class surf, extraordinary caves, and one of the most beautiful forests in the country. It's a serious overachiever of a region. Next up, Kangaroo Island. Kangaroo Island is 112 kilometers long with just 4,500 permanent residents, and it has more wildlife per square kilometer than almost anywhere else in Australia. Kangaroo Island sits off the South Australian coast about 45 minutes by ferry from Cape Jervis. It was cut off from the mainland roughly 10,000 years ago, which means the wildlife here never had to deal with the foxes and cats that wiped out animal populations across the rest of the country. The result is remarkable. At Seal Bay, you walk down to the beach and there are 500 Australian sea lions lying on the sand, pups scrambling over them, completely unbothered by your presence. You'll spot koalas in the eucalyptus trees above the road, echidnas on the walking tracks, Cape Barren geese everywhere, and kangaroos, obviously, grazing in the paddocks at dusk. My favorite thing about Kangaroo Island is exactly that. The wildlife just exists around you. You're not in a zoo. There's no fence. Nobody's hurting anything. A koala is just there above you in a tree, completely unbothered. It never stops being wonderful, no matter how many times it happens. The remarkable rocks at the southwest corner of the island are worth the drive by themselves. Granite boulders shaped by the Southern Ocean into forms that look designed. No two are the same. It's a year-round destination, but spring, September through November, is when the wildflowers are out and the sea lion pups at Seal Bay are newborn. Worth timing it that way if you can. And now, Ningaloo Reef. Most people who haven't been to Australia immediately think Great Barrier Reef. That's at number 1 on this list. But Ningaloo? Fewer people know about Ningaloo. It's on the remote northwest cape of Western Australia, about 1,200 kilometers north of Perth. The reef comes so close to shore you can snorkel directly from the beach. No boat needed. From March to July, whale sharks come here to feed. The largest fish on Earth, up to 12 meters long. You can swim with them. Guides spot them from light aircraft, radio the boats, and drop you in the water ahead of them. Whether it's manta rays cruising by year-round, humpback whales visiting from July to November, or turtles nesting on the beaches come November, there's always something wild to see. The water clarity is something else too. On a calm day, you can see the bottom in 20 meters of water, and the coral here is intact in ways that parts of the Great Barrier Reef simply aren't anymore. It's a long way from anywhere, and that's exactly the point. I think Ningaloo might be the most underrated destination in all of Australia. No crowds, no fanfare, just one of the best reef experiences on Earth, quietly doing its thing on the other side of the country. We make our way to the Daintree. Here's something that doesn't happen anywhere else on Earth. The world's oldest tropical rainforest grows right down to the beach. And the Great Barrier Reef is just offshore. 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites meeting at the water's edge. The Daintree is north of Cairns in far north Queensland. You cross the Daintree River by cable ferry, and the road north is effectively the end of the grid. No mains power, no traffic lights, mobile signal in patches only. The rainforest here is 180 million years old. The cassowary lives in it and will absolutely hold its ground if you get too close. Mossman Gorge has clear mountain water running through granite boulders. Cape Tribulation is a beach backed by rainforest with a reef visible in the water from the shore. At night, guided walks with a torch reveal tree frogs, pythons, and glowing fungi. It's the kind of place that doesn't need a filter to look unreal. My recommendation is to stay at least one night inside the rainforest. not down in Cairns, not on the edge of it. The sounds at night, the morning light coming through the canopy, it's a completely different experience from a day trip up and back. And now we're heading to Kakadu. Kakadu is the largest national park in Australia, and it carries the kind of history that makes everywhere else feel recent. Kakadu is in the Northern Territory, about 250 kilometers east of Darwin. It holds 2 UNESCO listings, natural and cultural. That combination is rare anywhere in the world. The rock art at Norlangi and Ubir is what most people don't expect. Not small cave drawings, panels covering entire cliff faces, some depicting animals now long extinct. You stand in front of them and it's hard to properly process the timeline. Yellow water billabong at dawn is one of those experiences that's hard to describe without sounding like you're exaggerating. Saltwater crocodiles drifting through the water lilies, thousands of birds moving overhead. It happens every single morning, and it never gets old. Honestly, yellow water at sunrise might be the most single atmospheric experience I've come across in Australia. It's one of those mornings you're still thinking about weeks later. And if you can get there in the dry season, Jim Jim Falls is worth the effort. It's a 150-meter drop into a beautiful rock pool, and the 4-wheel drive track to reach it is honestly part of the experience. Like Cape York, Kakadu is strictly a dry season destination, May through October. The wet season floods most roads and shuts large sections of the park down entirely. We head to one of Australia's most remote corners, the Kimberley. One of the last truly remote regions on Earth that's still accessible without serious expedition gear. The Kimberley is the northwest corner of Australia, a region the size of California with a population of about 35,000 people. Red Pindan cliffs, freshwater gorges, ancient rock art, a coastline so broken up by tides and inlets that large sections of it still haven't been fully mapped. The bungle bungles are the image everyone takes away. Orange and black beehive domes rising out of the spinifex, barely known outside the region until the mid-1980s, and still just as extraordinary as the day they were discovered. The horizontal falls are seawater forced through narrow gorges by tidal pressure so extreme it literally stacks upon itself. You see them from a seaplane, and it genuinely looks like physics has stopped working. Mitchell Falls is a 4-tiered waterfall deep in the park that takes a full day by helicopter or a 2-day 4-wheel drive trip to reach. And when you finally get there, you're almost certainly the only person there. Broome is the gateway. Purling history in the harbor, Cable Beach running 22 kilometers of red sand and blue water, camels walking along it at sunset. Broome earns its reputation. I think the Kimberley is the destination in Australia that rewards the people willing to work hardest to get there. It's not easy to reach, and it's not cheap. And that's exactly what's kept it extraordinary. And now we're heading to Tasmania. Tasmania is the island state sitting at the bottom of Australia, just an hour's flight from Melbourne. And from the moment you land, it genuinely feels like a completely different country. Tasmania is 68,000 square kilometers of mountains, wilderness coast, and rainforest. About 40% of the island is national park or protected reserve. It has some of the cleanest air on Earth. There's a monitoring system here that measures global baseline air quality because it's so far from any industrial pollution. If you get to Cradle Mountain at dawn, the lake reflects the mountain so perfectly it looks staged. Wombats graze around the car park at dusk. Wallabies wander across the trail. And if you have the time, the overland track from Cradle Mountain to Lake St. Clair is genuinely one of the great multi-day hikes in Australia. The Bay of Fires is a 30-kilometer stretch of coast with white sand, vivid orange lichen-covered boulders, and water a color you'd associate with the tropics, not an island at 42 degrees south. The food and wine scene in Hobart genuinely punches above the city's size, and Mona, the underground art museum, is one of the most remarkable art spaces anywhere in the world. A lot of people go to Tasmania specifically for it. My favorite thing about Tasmania is that it keeps surprising you. You go for Cradle Mountain and end up staying 2 extra days because of Mona or the Bay of Fires, or a cheese producer in the Huon Valley you stumbled into on the way back. It's that kind of place. And we're taking one of the great drives on Earth, the Great Ocean Road. It's 243 kilometers of road carved into cliff tops above the Southern Ocean, along the southern coast of Victoria, and it's one of the great coastal drives on Earth. The 12 Apostles are what most people come for, limestone stacks rising up to 45 meters out of the water, being slowly undercut by the Southern Ocean. One actually collapsed in 2005, in the middle of the day, in front of a group of tourists. There are 8 left now, and every few years that number goes down by 1. In my opinion, you really want to be here either at sunrise or sunset. The rest of the day, coach tours roll through, and it's a car park. At the end of the day, with a low light on the rock and mist coming off the water, it's something else entirely. Loch Ard Gorge is a few minutes away and is honestly more dramatic. A narrow canyon opening onto a beach enclosed by vertical walls. The turquoise pool at the base is extraordinary. I actually think Loch Ard is the highlight of the whole road. Most people speed past it to get to the Apostles. Do it in reverse if you can. Gorge first, Apostles at sunset. The Otway Ranges behind the road have temperate rainforest with tree ferns so tall they block the sky. The contrast between wild ocean on one side and ancient forest on the other is part of what makes this drive unusual. And now, the Whitsunday Islands. The Whitsundays are 74 islands spread across the Coral Sea, halfway up the Queensland coast, and from the air, they genuinely look like CGI. Whitehaven Beach is the reason. 7 kilometers of 98% pure silica sand, so fine it doesn't heat up in direct sun. At Hill Inlet at the northern end, depending on the tide, the sand and turquoise water swirl together into patterns that look different every single time. From above, it's one of the most photographed natural features in Australia. I think Whitehaven is the most genuinely beautiful beach in a country that has no shortage of beautiful beaches. That's a big claim, and I'm standing by it. The sailing here is famous. You charter a boat, barefoot if you're confident, crewed if you're not, and spend 3 to 5 days moving between islands, anchoring in sheltered bays, snorkeling reefs that come up to just below the surface. Hart Reef is only visible from a seaplane, and it's absolutely worth the cost. Airlie Beach is your mainland getaway, but don't spend too long there. The whole point of the Whitsundays is getting out into the water. June to October is the window you want. From November through May, marine stingers are in the water. You can still swim, but you're in a wetsuit, and it's not quite the same experience. And this one is non-negotiable on any Australian list. Uluru. There are places you think you know from photographs, and then when you arrive, the photographs haven't told you anything useful. Uluru is the red center of the Northern Territory, 450 kilometers southwest of Alice Springs. It's 348 meters tall and 9.4 kilometers around the base. Those numbers mean nothing until you're standing next to it and you start walking. The color changes. That's what photos can't replicate. Gray at noon, orange in the late afternoon, deep terracotta red as the sun gets low. Then, for about 10 minutes before it disappears, a burning dark red that looks like it's lit from inside. My favorite thing about Uluru is that it genuinely doesn't matter how many photos you've seen. The first time you stand at the base, you are not prepared. The scale of it, the color, the silence around it. Nothing really gets you ready for it. Kakadu is 36 domed rock formations 50 kilometers west. The Valley of the Winds walk between them and is one of the best half-day hikes in Australia. Uluru gets more visitors, but Kakadu is arguably more extraordinary up close. Uluru is sacred to the Arnungu people. Climbing is now closed. Their request finally honored in 2019. The base walk takes about 3.5 hours and gets you close enough to understand why this place matters. The night sky out here is one of the best in the world. No light pollution for hundreds of kilometers in any direction. The Milky Way on a clear night is overwhelming. April to September is when you come. Summer in the Red Center regularly pushes above 45 degrees, and that's not somewhere you want to be walking a 9-kilometer base in that heat. Before we get to number 1, and after a list like this, you already have a sense of the scale of the country. I want to quickly talk about planning, because Australia sounds manageable on a list. In reality, it's one of the most logistically complex destinations you can choose. The East Coast is easy. Everyone figures that out. But combining Uluru with the Kimberley, Tasmania, and the Reef in a way that actually works for timing and routing, that's where things get complicated fast. Wrong season in the Kimberley and the roads are closed. Wrong timing at Ningaloo and you miss the whale sharks. Wrong direction up the coast and you're backtracking for days. That's exactly what we can help with at Optimize Travel. Custom Australia itineraries, the right regions, right order, right time of the year, sorted by people who actually know how this country works. Link is in the description. Visit optimizetravel.com and let us take the planning off your plate. At number 1 is the Great Barrier Reef, the largest living structure on Earth. 2,300 kilometers long, visible from space. Those aren't metaphors. That's just what it is. The reef runs along the northeast coast of Queensland, from the Torres Strait in the north, all the way down past the Whitsundays. 2,900 individual reefs, 900 islands. You access it from Cairns, Port Douglas, the Whitsundays, or the Capricorn Coast. Each section different, each with its own character. The ribbon reefs in the far north are shallow enough that you reach them by liveaboard only. The inner reef near Cairns is shallower, better for beginners. The coral sea further offshore has walls dropping hundreds of meters into deep blue water. The coral bleaching events of recent years are real, and parts of the reef have been affected. Responsible operators will tell you honestly which sections are thriving and which have suffered. The healthy sections are still genuinely extraordinary. I think going now, while it's still at its best, is better than waiting. There's nothing else in the world that looks like this, and the scale of it underwater is something you simply cannot get from a photo or a documentary. Snorkeling on an untouched Balmy, with reef sharks circling below, turtles drifting past, and sunlight refracting through 10 meters of clear water above you. It's one of the great experiences in travel. Full stop. If you really want to do it properly though, look into a liveaboard. You spend a few days out on the water, sleep on the boat, and dive multiple times a day. And diving the reef at night is a completely different experience. Honestly, one of those things you just have to do to understand why people come back for it. June through October gives you the best visibility and calmest conditions. You can dive year-round, though jellyfish affect some areas between November and May. Worth checking with your operator before you book. So there you have it, 15 of the best places in Australia. From Cape York Peninsula at the very top of the continent, all the way down to the Great Barrier Reef. Australia rewards the people who get off the East Coast Trail, the Kimberley, Ningaloo, and Barossa. Most visitors stick to the obvious route and never see the half of this country that's even better. That's exactly why those places are still what they are. If you're planning a trip and want help sorting the routing properly, right regions, right timing, all of it, that's what we do at Optimize Travel. Link is in the description. Tell us in the comments, which location surprised you most on this list? Subscribe for more destination guides like this one. Thanks for watching.